You're standing on a muddy battlefield. It's the year 1356. Your armor weighs more than a golden retriever, about 50 pounds of solid steel strapped to every inch of your body. Your heart is pounding. A wall of enemy knights is charging straight at you on horseback, lances aimed at your chest. One wrong move, and this is where your story ends. But here's the thing, you've been training for this moment since you were 7 years old. This is your life as a medieval knight, and trust me, it's nothing like the movies. Let's rewind. Way back, you're born somewhere in medieval Europe, let's say around the year 1300, and if you're going to become a knight, there's one golden rule. You need to be rich, or at least, born into the right family. Not just anyone could dream of becoming a knight. The first requirement was someone who could afford a knight's weapons, armor, and war horse. These items weren't cheap, and only the very rich could pay for them. Knights came from the noble or aristocratic classes, so forget about your peasant buddy, the farmer's son. He's plowing fields for life. But you're the son of a lord, and your childhood, it's about to get stolen. The training to become a knight began as early as the age of 7. Up till then, you'd be cared for by a foster mother in your father's castle. But at 7 years old, you don't get a birthday cake. You get shipped off. You would be sent to the castle of another knight or lord, often relatives of the family, or lords to whom your father owed allegiance. You would serve as a page in the household of this lord. That's right, you're basically a child servant in a stranger's castle. Welcome to page life. For 7 or 8 years, you serve as a page. You learn to ride and hunt. You're taught reading, writing, and arithmetic. But don't let that sound too cozy. You would become an assistant to established knights. Mastery of horsemanship was a key lesson. You'd be given duties such as maintaining armor and caring for a knight's horses. You're basically scrubbing rust off some dude's chainmail at age 9, dreaming about the day you wear it. Part 2. Squire life. So you survived your page years. You didn't cry too much. You didn't get kicked out. Now comes the real gauntlet. At 14, you become a squire. This is where you learn real combat skills and start assisting knights in actual battle. This isn't playing with wooden sticks anymore. Squires had to be ready to fight. You train with real weapons. You're taught fighting skills by the knight himself. You have to be in good shape and strong. You continue to practice your horsemanship, perfecting skills at jousting and fighting from the saddle. And there was this terrifying training device called the quintain. The quintain was a rotating pole that squires and knights charged on horseback. You would try to hit the shield cleanly with the tip of your lance, and if you did not hit it at the right place at the correct speed, the rotating sandbag on the other end could knock you clean off your horse. Imagine getting smacked off a galloping horse by a spinning sandbag. At 14, every single day, you would also practice wrestling and grappling and take part in mock sword fights using wooden or whalebone swords called batons. Small round shields made from wood or metal called bucklers were used in mock fights to learn how to defend against sword attacks. And your job wasn't just training. As a squire, you would take care of the knight's horses, clean his armor and weapons, and accompany the knight to the battlefield. Most future knights worked as a squire for 5 or 6 years, half a decade of being someone else's shadow, just waiting for your moment. Part 3. The dubbing ceremony. Then, one day, it happens. If you've proven yourself worthy, if you've bled, trained, and survived, you earn the ultimate honor. If a squire had proven his bravery and skill at battle, he would become a knight at the age of 21. But this isn't just a handshake and a good job. This is the dubbing ceremony, and it is intense. This ceremony was very important and had a lot of symbolic significance. It focused on 3 important aspects of knighthood: religion, allegiance to the king, and the Code of Chivalry, and it often lasted 3 days. 3 days. The day and night before the knighting ceremony would be spent in a ritual of cleansing the body and meditating on the enormity of the responsibility of becoming a knight. You would fast. You would pray alone all night long. No food, no sleep, just you, a cold stone chapel, and your sword laid across the altar. Finally, a priest or nobleman would invest you with knighthood. You kneel at the altar and lift your eyes in prayer. While you are engaged in this prayer, the noble or priest girds you with your sword and then strikes you a blow on the side of the cheek with the flat of the blade. This was the dubbing. It was the only hit a knight had to take without retaliating. It served as a reminder of the suffering the knight must be prepared to embrace for God and king. During the ceremony, you kneel before the king, lord, or another knight who taps you with the sword, formally inaugurating your knighthood. You are then presented with a pair of riding spurs along with a sword. You rise. You are now a knight of the realm. 14 years of training, all for this moment. Part 4. Daily life. Now here's the part most people get wrong. Hollywood shows you knights swinging swords 24/7, but the reality, jousting took some time to become popular. Chivalry was basically a list of rules about whom not to abuse, and dragons didn't exist. Much of a knight's life involved sitting around waiting for the next war to happen. Your average day, let me walk you through it. You start your day at dawn, when Mass is heard, you make your prayers. In medieval Europe, almost everyone was Catholic. Whether they truly believed in the religion was irrelevant. All people, especially those in higher authorities such as knights, had to adhere to daily religious duties. After prayer, you have breakfast, usually bread, not exactly a royal buffet. Then it's straight to the training grounds. You go to the quintain and the pell for weapons practice. You have discussions on warfare strategy to increase your knowledge of siege warfare and weapons. Midday comes around. You have your mid-morning prayers and a meal. Dinner would normally contain game meat, and for a beverage, wine. And what about water? Well, without easy access to clean water, most adults, including knights, resorted to drinking alcohol. Yes, knights were basically drinking wine and ale all day, not because they were party animals, because water could literally kill you. In the afternoon, you would work on your skills in horsemanship and accompany the lord in hawking, hunting, or inspecting the estate. And when the sun sets, entertainments such as music, dancing, jugglers, acrobats, and jesters would fill the evening after supper. You would then say your bedtime prayers and go to bed, and then you do it all over again tomorrow. Part 5. Brutal reality. But let's not sugarcoat this. Being a knight wasn't glamorous, it was brutal. Let's talk about the armor. A complete suit of plate armor usually weighed between 45 to 60 pounds. That's 20 to 27 kilograms. It was designed to distribute weight evenly for mobility in battle. Sounds manageable. Think again. Studies have shown that wearing a full suit of armor takes more than twice the energy of walking around without it. Even carrying a backpack of equal weight is less exhausting than wearing armor, because strapping 17 pounds of steel plates on each leg requires serious extra exertion. Knights needed to be in top physical condition to prepare for combat in full armor. Battles could last for hours or even days, and carrying that extra weight wore on them after a while. So how did they prepare? Some even used extra heavy versions of their weapons and armor in training so they could move and fight more effectively on the real battlefield. And fashion, yeah, that was a thing too. Laws placed restrictions on the kinds of clothes people could wear. Serfs could only spend so much money on clothes because noble people like knights wanted to ensure they dressed better than ordinary folk. Knights had to be fashionable to distinguish themselves from the class below them, so they wore elaborate and fancy garbs. You were a warrior and a fashion icon. Imagine being expected to look like a runway model and fight to the death. Part 6. Code of Chivalry plus outro. But above all of this, the training, the battles, the armor, the sleepless nights, there was one thing that truly made a knight. The Code of Chivalry. The Code of Chivalry was the moral and social code that medieval knights were expected to live by, a set of values that defined what it meant to be a true knight. Emerging between the 11th and 12th centuries, it guided a knight's behavior both on and off the battlefield. In general, knights were expected to uphold the honor of God and the church. They were expected to fight for their liege lord, maintain order, collect taxes, and manage landholdings. Additionally, knights were to protect women, orphans, and those less fortunate. But here's the truth. The code varied significantly by region and was never as cleanly followed in practice as the literature suggested. That gap between the ideal and the reality is where things get interesting. Because let's be real, not every knight was noble. Some were ruthless, some broke every rule. But the code gave the world an idea of what a hero should be. And that idea echoed through centuries into your movies, your books, your video games. Every time you see a character stand up for the weak, fight with honor, and sacrifice themselves for something greater, you're seeing the ghost of a medieval knight. 14 years, from a scared 7-year-old boy sent to a stranger's castle, to a fully armored warrior kneeling before a king. That was your life as a medieval knight. So, would you survive it? If this blew your mind, smash that subscribe button. I drop videos like this every week. Next time, we're covering what your life would be like as a Roman gladiator. You do not want to miss that one.
Please whatever.